Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri. We gave Doomwheel Crossing the week off, but fear not, in his place is my friend and yours, Mr. Zach Gio. What is going on, Zach? How you been since the Omega Metroid Marathon ended?
Man, I've been doing great. I have been incredibly busy between work and life. My wife and I found out that we are having a beautiful baby boy sometime in September, and we've been cracking down, getting the house ready, trying to figure out everything that we need. We cleared out the guest room to prepare a nursery, and
I was going to ask you painted any rooms yet?
Not yet, but we've completely cleared it out and started decorating and moving stuff in. And next weekend, the folks are going to come to spend the weekend with us, and we're going to paint together.
Ooh,
it's going to be a great time.
Very nice, very cool.
But things have been good, I've been playing a lot of games recently, working a lot, and there's a new game that came out called Fragpunk a couple of days ago. It's like a mix between, it's like Call of Duty and Valorant had a baby, and out came a really talented, beautiful art style first-person shooter that is really hard and makes me mad very quickly. But I love it. It's really good.
Fragpunk, okay. Well, congrats on on the other thing. That's pretty awesome. I've been thinking kind of like a rut actually lately in terms of playing games. Other than the game that we're going to talk about today, I don't know. I tried to start a few different games and just nothing's kind of click. I think I'm just waiting. I'm waiting and waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. I feel like that's all I want right now. I did restart Fire Emblem Three Houses. I can hear Dak out there somewhere screaming, but I did. That game is awesome. And actually, I ordered Fire Emblem Engage as well. I've never played that, so that should be here in the next day or so. So I'm going to get my Fire Emblem on. And you know what? That's actually not a bad segue. I didn't plan it this way, but that's not a bad segue here. Because I'm going to tell everybody listening to this. There is going to be a show next week. But there is not going to be a show next Wednesday at the regular time. Instead, what we are going to do is actually Doom, Alasyn, and I are going to live stream on April 2nd that the Nintendo Switch 2 Live Direct, which takes place at the ungodly hour of 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. your time, Zach. It's way too early in every time zone. But we're going to be there. We're going to live stream it. And we're not going to live stream it to Omega Metroid YouTube. What we're going to do is we're going to live stream it to the Zelda Cast Twitch. So if you want to come and hang out with us and see our live reactions, twitch.tv/Zelda Cast. It'll be me. It'll be Al. It'll be Doom. It's an Omega Zelda Cast crossover. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm not going to get too much into it because we're going to do a whole episode next week, but I feel pretty good about our chances of seeing a Metroid game in that direct. Let me tell you that. I feel pretty good. So come and hang out with us on April the 2nd at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Oh.
Yeah, you better get your double ready, brother.
Yeah, dude. Just an outrageous time. But I digress. Zach, you're not on the show next week, so it's fair game for you if you wanted to throw out some things that maybe you're hoping to see on the 2nd. And I always say dare to dream, brother.
I am going to be 100% honest with you. I know for a fact that we are going to see a full pre-release trailer, kind of like what they did with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. We're going to see the full, ready-to-go gameplay trailer for Metroid Prime 4. It's going to give us some story elements. It's going to give us some awesome bits of the soundtrack. We're going to see Samus kicking butt. I am ready to see it. I think we might... obviously, they're going to do the really awesome Switch 2 presentation. They're going to show us everything that it can do, the fact that it can make your own breakfast for you and stuff like that, and everything else Nintendo's going to do with innovation. But I think we're going to get a little teaser trailer for the next Zelda game. That is what I'm hoping to see.
I've been on that train. I've been convincing people. I think we're gonna get the next 3D Zelda teased, and I really don't think it's that unbelievable. But a lot of people think it's pretty unbelievable. For a fact, that's pretty confident. You sound that we're gonna see some Metroid Prime 4 there. I'm not willing to say it's like 100% gonna show up, but I would be incredibly surprised and incredibly disappointed if it didn't. So we'll save that for next week. But I'm expecting big things out of that direct. I got to tell you, really
mark my words. Mark my words, Andy Spiteri, the first of Calgary, Alberta. We are going to see that this console is going to launch in early June, and Prime 4 is going to be a launch title day one. It's going to happen. I'm putting all my marbles.
Okay.
And I don't have that many left. I'm putting all my marbles on that prediction right now. And a part of me is hoping that we see a bunch of like day one major league ports, like, Elden Ring. Maybe they give us some teasers for like Call of Duty. Kind of include other companies and stuff. Get it kind of more open to other player bases and fan bases and stuff. Because I think that the Switch 2 has the potential to be... I'm not going to say the next Switch, because obviously that's what it's going to be.
I know what you're saying, though. The next like big smash hit for Nintendo, basically.
Oh, yeah. Let's just hope to God that they touch up the eShop, because good Lord.
Oh, that's you know what?
Yeah,
I was going to say, so about the games, I'm going to save my thoughts for next week, but I mean, that's just a requirement. Like, trying to find anything on the eShop right now is just like it's a dog's breakfast trying to track down what you're looking for. Especially if you're just browsing, looking for something cool on sale. Like, there's so much slop in there that it's just it's a mess. That's the best way that we can think of to say it in a in a safe for work kind of way on the show. But that is next week with our Switch 2 predictions, and the week after with our Switch 2 live stream. This week, we get down to business, and Inspired by Metroid returns. And you know what? It actually wasn't that long ago since the last Inspired by Metroid that we did. You know what? You mentioned this before we got on air, Zach, and I think we got to tell the story on air about the last Inspired by Metroid that Gooey and I did covering Animal Well. Care to enlighten everybody? We had should we call it a technical difficulty during that? During that episode.
We'll call it that, so it makes me seem slightly more intelligent than in that moment. So Andy and Gooey Fame were recording. I don't remember the game that you guys were covering.
Animal
Well.
Excellent game.
You
Excellent
just said,
game.
yeah. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought they might have just been hanging out, and I failed to see that they were in the podcast chat. I failed to see that both of their cameras were on, which is a telltale sign that they're probably doing something important that shouldn't be disturbed. Meanwhile, with my Discord, I was fumbling around with the settings, and I couldn't figure out how to turn off my announcement soundboard when I entered. And so I just came in to say hi while they're recording. And I jump in and I'm like, what's going on, guys? And this loud ass soundboard bite plays. And all I hear is, hey, Zach, we're recording, buddy. And I'm like, oh.
And you know what? Actually, I tried to keep it together for a second because I was like, I think we can no-sell this and continue. But whatever sound that was, here's some behind-the-scenes Omega for everybody. I was editing the episode, and so I cut that part out, obviously. But, dude... I must have listened to that sound like a dozen times, and I played it for Sam, and we were killing ourselves because like it was like your buddy or something like that. But like basically like Zach comes in, and all of a sudden it's like and then this sound starts playing. I was like, what the hell is that? And like,
yeah, my bad.
So
yeah, I wish you would have saved it and sent it to me. That would have been golden. I would.
I wonder if I still have it actually. I wonder if I do. Maybe I can track down. So we'll see if any of that happens today in our Inspired by Metroid episode. But yes, for once, it's not a month over month long layover for an Inspired by Metroid game. We're actually jumping right back into it about 2 months or so afterwards. And I'll tell you why, actually, because I bought 2 games at the same time that I really wanted to play. 1, because I just thought that they'd be really good, but 2, I wanted to cover them for the show. Those games were Animal Well, and the game that we are now going to talk about today, Path of the Teal Lotus. And I would say that this game, like, it's a Metroidvania, and pretty much every Metroidvania I feel like falls under the inspired by Metroid umbrella, because like Metroid literally created that genre. But some Metroidvanias have more in common with Metroid than other games, and I would say that this one, more so to me, feels like kind of a mashup between Ōkami and like Hollow Knight. But it's going to have particular importance for Metroid fans, because as maybe some people may know or may not know, the acclaimed developer of AM2R, another Metroid remake, Milton Guasti, actually worked on this game. He did the level design for Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, and it's probably no surprise that that's probably the high point of the game for me, actually, to be honest, because like the game just looks so incredible. It's mechanically very tight, same kind of like really tight platform that you'd expect to see in Ori and the Blind Forest. So we're going to go over the game. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what we like, what we didn't like, and kind of go from there. And I guess we should preface too, like I'm really the only one that's kind of played through the whole thing. You're maybe an hour or so into it, so we could just get some first impressions from you. But I'm excited about this one. And I won't go too in depth into the story as to not spoil anything. Not that there is like, you know, a massive story behind the game, or nothing that you probably couldn't surmise is happening. But I'm really excited to talk about this, actually.
Yeah, me too. And I'm glad that you were talking about Ori and the Blind Forest, because honestly, the way that the game kind of gets started kind of has that same effect. Like Ori is, I guess, a leaf from the great tree, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And Bow is a fox spirit born from a celestial blossom in the heavens. So it kind of has that same like spirit vibe that goes through. And it's really cool because from what I've seen interacting with characters in the world, you're kind of just exploring a world that's based on Japanese folklore and mythology. And it's beautiful. Everything about this game so far is just absolutely, it's captivating. It's a good word that I have for it. And I love the gameplay and the traversal too, which I know we're going to get back into that. But yeah, I'm really excited to dive deeper into this game. And I have it for both Steam and the Switch, so we're going to move forward and see which one's better.
And I guess that we should just say before we even get started here, so Bow Path of the Teal Lotus is available on Steam, it's available on Switch, it's available on PlayStation 5, Xbox, Series X and S, or whatever. So it's pretty much available everywhere. So if you want to pick it up, go for it. I want to say it was even on sale not that long ago, and it's a really quality Metroidvania that I enjoyed a lot, actually. It wasn't perfect. I had a few issues with it that we'll go over, but once you really kind of get cooking with it, like, man, oh man, did this game kind of pull me in towards the end. So I really enjoyed my time. And you're right, like there's a lot of similarities in the way that that Bow and Ori particularly kind of look, play, control, feel. And I guess you could throw the Knight from Hollow Knight into there too. Like you're playing as these small characters going up against like ginormous enemies typically that you're fighting. Obviously the game though that I think most closely resembles this, I keep coming back to Ōkami. Like if Ōkami was a Metroidvania, it'd pretty much be Bow Path of the Teal Lotus, which is a compliment, because I think that both of those games are great. But yeah, like I mean that's really the first thing that sticks out is kind of the art style. It's very beautiful. I don't even know how to like describe it actually, because it's hand drawn illustrations. But it's very fluid. It's almost like cell shaded, but like not quite Hollow Knight, which looked like kind of a Tim Burton movie, but not quite Ori and the Blind Forest, which feels a little bit more like 3D almost to me, or a little bit more rounded. You know what I mean? It's almost like watching a picture, but in motion. It looks incredible, and it's certainly like eye catching right away to give it a unique identity of its own.
Absolutely, and it's kind of like when I first loaded it up, it kind of reminds me of how a kid would imagine this type of world. And it looks like a comic book, not a comic book, but like an illustration that's just come to life, which I guess you could say that about most video games. But the fact that this world is so vibrant, and I mean, you said Milton had a touch of, or he did the level design for this game, right?
The level design, yeah.
Man, he hit the nail on the head. It is beautiful. I have a little playthrough kind of going through right now, and there's just so much intricate detail that all you can really think of is imaginative, and it's just it's beautiful. I love the colors, I love the depth of each level, and just the fluidity of the way the game feels and plays and looks, it's really a touch above. And I got to give it to Humble Games. And I'm kind of sad that this was the last game that they published before they closed in July of 2023. And honestly, shout out to them for releasing a really beautiful game like this before effectively closing their doors.
Yeah,
So-
it was too bad. And we should also mention too, by the way, so Squid Shock Studios is the developer of this game, and
Yeah.
like we said, they brought on Milton from AM2R. They actually brought on Robert Sefazon from AM2R as well. And yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, like basically as soon as the game was released, everybody was laid off, which is really unfortunate. And to kind of go on a side tangent here, like just something that is not sustainable for the games industry. Because like if people are worried about getting laid off all the time, like nobody's going to be a developer going forward here. So we got to do something about that. But nevertheless, yeah, this was the last release basically. So we'll try and celebrate it here today, and there is a lot to celebrate. You know, obviously the art style really catches your eye as well. And one thing that I quite like though about the game is that it's kind of the right size for a Metroidvania. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, it's got a bunch of different distinct areas, which I really like, and there's not. They're not too big. They're not too small, but they're not too big either. It's kind of right in that sweet spot where for me, like a good Metroidvania is one that I never want to feel like, oh god, like when's this over? Like I just want to get to the finish line. And Bo kind of came in right in that sweet spot for me where I thought it ended where it should. And I thought that you kind of progressed to new levels in the same like kind of order that you should, or like, you know what, like every couple hours, like you were going somewhere new and getting like a new ability. So I thought the map was really smartly laid out actually, on the game itself. Again, probably not a surprise because like we've seen that with Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisp, so obviously we saw that with AM2R. And I'm sure that other people had a hand in contributing to that as well. But I think that the world is just like really tight, really compact, really dense in a lot of ways, and a lot of really great abilities that kind of get you to and fro. So I think when you combine that with the very striking art style and like the art style that makes each area unique and stick out, I had a pretty good first impression of the game.
Yeah, honestly, from the moment I booted it up, I was kind of enthralled with the art style, and I was just like, wow. One thing I noticed immediately, I got the Equinox staff. Once you're able to collect the bamboo at the beginning of the game, and you're able to actually melee. This is the first game I've ever played where the melee staff kind of acts towards helping your movement, and it makes your movement more fluid because it can reset your jump. And I thought that was brilliant. I've never played another game where your attack helps with your movement as well, except for like a dodge or a dash, but that doesn't necessarily count. And I was locked in for the amount of time that I got to play, and it makes the game so much fun to just continuously progress. And it makes fighting cool too, because you can literally bounce off enemies and jump back in and bounce off them again. And there's maybe like a 6-7 hour game. It's kind of like the perfect length to not hold you for such a long time. It's gonna keep me focused up for a long time when I'm
I'll come back to that, to the jumping in there, because I had some thoughts on that. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's probably, like, if you're going for 100%, it's probably like 12 hours. If you're just beating the game, maybe 6 to 8, depending on how many times you die. Nice. But yeah, like, I think that I think that was certainly one of the things that stuck out to me. I want to just kind of finish up on maybe some of the other, like, I guess, like, the vibe, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Like, it's certainly set like traditional Japanese folklore, right? Like the story's all about the different folklore. The story is like very, I mean, the whole game honestly feels very heavily inspired by Ōkami, which I mean makes sense because that game was also inspired by Japanese folklore. But you really just kind of get that whole that like charming vibe to it, right? Like there's a lot of like floral, there's a lot of nature, there's a lot of like and we'll talk about later, like the music really adds to that presentation, really adds to that ambiance. It really does like a really good job of setting that tone and putting you in that place where it's like, this feels like we're in like, medieval Japan or something like that, and taking on a monster threatening the sun goddess. So I thought that it did a really good job of kind of establishing its setting as well, which, and again, every area does its own unique job of presenting it and what makes it different too. So I did have some pretty strong first impressions. I'm not going to go into the story like a whole lot because, number one, I don't want to spoil it for you, but number two, like, I feel like there is a story, but it's not like the main focus of the game, I wouldn't say. It's pretty standard Metroidvania fare, and to be fair, there is a lot of like text and a lot of scrolls and stuff like that you can learn that kind of gives you the history of the world and of some of the principal characters and stuff like that. But the story itself, I thought was just like mostly fine. It was perfunctory. I don't know, whatever that word is, to kind of keep you moving and get you going from place to place to place. So I thought that it did a good job. I will say, and this isn't a spoiler because I think they say it in the first couple minutes there, I thought it was like just really cool to see like Amaterasu mentioned, and I know that that's like the goddess of the sun, but all I could think of was like Ami from Ōkami. Multiple times playing this game, I was like, man, I want to replay Ōkami. But yeah, I thought that the world, the story, the art style, they all kind of blend together in a really nice way to kind of make you, I don't know, like really engage with that. And in the same kind of way that Ori kind of like sucks you in with the combination of its story, its world, and its art direction. Like, I remember playing Ori and the Blind Forest, and we did an episode on this, but like the first, I don't know, 20, 15 minutes or whatever with that intro, I was like just hooked. Because the combination of the three, like they were working so well in tandem together. And I'm not going to say that Bo quite got on the same level as Ori, because I think it's hard for games to do that, for me at least, but did a good job of it, and really kind of started off strong, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree 100%. And what's the name of the character that you meet that initially starts helping you gather abilities and stuff? Because if we're talking about first impressions, that guy's a jerk.
He is a jerk.
He's a jerk. He's very conceited in himself.
I can't remember what his name is, but that's his whole story arc in the game. And you, again, like, it's not like a spoiler, but I mean, like, we've seen this story play out in games before, where you have someone that's kind of like standoffish with this new hero, and as you do things, he slowly wins over your respect, and eventually they're fighting with you at the end of the game. So that's kind of like the same kind of thing here. I cannot believe I'm forgetting this guy's name. I'm looking desperately for it actually in my Switch, and do you think I can find it? The answer is no.
If you can, that'd be awesome, because his whole vibe when you first meet him is like, I am a god, you dull creature.
Yeah.
Get away from me, you are disgusting.
He's kind of a little bit of a jerk. But I do think that pays off in the story, I will say. And then, like, again, you don't have to have played the game. I'm sure that you could just, like, it's the plot in, like, almost every game ever, kind of like this, right? Like, so I feel like it's not a spoiler saying that, but yeah, he comes around. He comes around. I cannot find this guy's name. I'm ashamed of myself. To be fair, actually, to myself, I played this immediately after playing the Omega Metroid Marathon, so my brain was half working, and I finished it about 3 weeks ago. So I'm a little bit fuzzier than maybe I would be.
His name is Asahi. Asahi.
Yes. Asahi.
Ah, he's a total jerk.
He
treats you like crap until he notices your earring, and he's like, "Oh, that's interesting. You still suck."
He could use a little course in first impressions. Let's just say. Oh yeah. You only get one chance to make one. Yeah. Let's revisit what you said, because I want to talk about the gameplay really quickly.
Yeah,
here.
For sure.
It took me a while to get on board with the jumping system that you mentioned.
Really?
It did. Yeah. If I didn't dislike it, I wouldn't say, but I didn't love it either. And it's certainly a stylistic choice. So basically the way that Bo works is there's no standard double jump in this game, which is pretty common in most Metroidvanias, right? The way that double jumping works in this game is you can jump in the air and you can hit something. And that can be an enemy, it could be a breakable object in the background, whatever. It could be things like literally floating in the air that are designed to give you double jumps, but you have to hit an object in the air while you're jumping in order to accrue another jump. And to be fair, you can do this repeatedly. So like you could theoretically just like jump up, hit an object, jump up, hit an object again on your way down, hit an object, like, and just stay there, right? Like it's kind of got a little bit of pogo that's designed into it. And it's been a few years, but I want to say that's something similar to Hollow Knight. People can correct me if I'm wrong about that. You know what? I sometimes it worked for me and sometimes it didn't work for me. I would have preferred a standard double jump, I think, in particular moments. I feel like in combat, I felt like it was especially tricky, which is funny because you'd think it would actually be easier in combat because you could just like jump, hit enemy, jump, hit enemy, jump, hit enemy. But I struggled with it a little bit because I think, at least for me, like when you're in the heat of the moment, you're fighting a boss, you're doing whatever. It can be something that just is so instinctive to just jump again that if you don't have your jump, you kind of forget about it. Now, there were times where I thought that it worked really well, particularly with like movement puzzles and like, traversing, like if there's a room of spikes or something like that and you need to jump across like a bunch of different things in order to get to the other side. That I do think worked well. And combine it with the dash that you get later in the game. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of really great movement puzzles in the game. But I will say there were times in the game where I thought that was limiting rather than adding to the experience, and that could be me because I talked to a couple people about it, specifically Game Worm actually, who I bugged to come on the show with us, but he said no. But I bugged him to come on the show with us, because I knew he loved that movement system, and I wasn't like completely sold on it, and I was like, well, you got to come and defend it with me. But so long story short, like I know a lot of people out there really love it. It connected with a lot of people. It took a minute for it to win me over, and I'm not really sure that I'd ever say, Zach, if it like won me over completely. I think I just learned to live with it, and at times I was like, yeah, okay, this is pretty cool. But I think if I still had my choice, I would have just put a double jump in the game.
I can see where you're coming from there because it can get a little bit convoluted at times. And I'll go ahead and preface with what I'm about to say with the fact that I'm not a speedrunner. I do not speedrun games at all. But people that master this game and the movement and the ability to like hit the lamps in midair and add the jump and the dash and the speedruns of this game, I bet are gnarly. I think it's really... I think it would be really cool just to see how creative people can get with the movement system in this game. And while I understand wanting a standard double jump, if you play it right and you are able to move efficiently and kind of memorize and get muscle memory for all that, you can infinitely move throughout the free space. True. And it's a really cool thing. And honestly, I got up to the part where you get the Lotus Dash. And so once I got that, it was easy money because I have one of those controllers that have buttons on the back because I'm a cheater and I like to cheat. And so I can kind of chain the dash and the jump easily.
Are you playing this on Steam or on Switch, by the way?
Steam.
Steam, okay. Good call.
Yeah, for sure. Because if I play it on Switch, I have one of those buttons on the back. People can't see this listening on like Spotify or whatever, but I have a Scuff controller for my PC that I have like the buttons on the back, and so because I'm a real gamer, but
what are those? I still use my Joy. I remember Doom was just like mortified when I told him I was going to be racing like Zero Mission using Joy-Cons and playing Super Metroid using Joy-Cons. He was just like, what?
No, man, that just means you have a strong soul. Never let them hold you back.
I got something. I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that. I think in my ideal scenario, I would have done both, actually. Like, I would have had the double jump just be always there, but I think I would have also still found a way to like, if you hit an enemy or an object in air, you get one jump. I think maybe you could have done both, but... I mean, I guess if you could still do that, what's the purpose of a standard double jump then, right? Like, and especially when you get some abilities later on that kind of are designed to help your movement in the game. I thought that it was particularly tough in the first opening salvo here, and not to scare you here, but there's a section called the Sencho Bridge and there's a big chase sequence there, and not dissimilar to what you might find in Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And the layout is really crisp, like the way that the whoever is attacking you comes, and like the stuff is falling behind you and stuff coming in front of you. I thought that was really crisp, but and maybe it's just it took me a while to get used to, but I had a hard time with navigating that. I will say once I got to the ending areas there, there's a lot of really, really fantastic like puzzles and areas, which we'll cover here in just a bit. And I will say that by that point, I was pretty like, oh, okay, like I know what I need to do. The muscle memory, like you said, kicked in a little bit, but it took me a while to kind of get there, and I can't say it ever like completely 100% won me over either.
Yeah. No, I can understand that, and I'm actually really glad that you told me that there's a chase sequence, because I love intense.
Me too.
Those moments are scary, dude.
Yeah.
And the one in the Will of the Wisps, I've died so many times trying to get past that. And I remember watching my buddy play that when the game first came out, and he just couldn't do it. And I remember him like turning off the Switch and just putting it down. And so I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to get to that. How far in the game is that? I don't mind you telling me that, because that's not necessarily a spoiler for me. But it might be for somebody else.
I don't think you're too far off from it. It's in the first act of the game, for sure.
Okay, sweet. Well, then I'm ready to be mortified.
Yeah, actually, we'll save that till we get to the areas there.
Sweet.
I'll give you some other information as well. But one of the other thing that we should talk about that Bo does, which I kind of like, it's kind of unique here actually, is they have a tea kettle that kind of acts as it's not your health, but it's kind of like your magic, I guess, for lack of better term. So you can boil tea and you accrue tea by hitting enemies and hitting things and stuff like that. And you can, and this is a really clever system, I thought. If you stand still, you can heal yourself. And it takes maybe only like 2 seconds in order to heal. And by the way, so you have like feathers, and you have like 3 feathers, and then 4, and then 5. It kind of works like hearts do in Zelda. And so you can pause, like you stop moving for about 2 seconds, and you can hold down your T button and you heal yourself, which is a really cool mechanic, because obviously when you need to heal yourself, typically you're fighting enemies, you're fighting bosses, so it's kind of like a little bit of risk reward there. Like, do I pause to take a chance and heal myself like before the enemy strikes me again? And it's really cool too, because like sometimes after a battle, you could just like stop and recharge and heal yourself as well. And not only that, but it actually ties into some of the additional power-ups that you can get too. There are these things called let me make sure that I don't butcher the name here, but Darumas, which are kind of like special abilities. Summons, I guess, would be a like term. But like, for example, one of them, you can have a little Daruma come out and chomp enemies. The other one that I used a lot was one that just like shoots fire from your mouth. There's one that throws bombs at enemies, one that freezes enemies. And you infuse your tea into them as well to use that. So it kind of adds another little layer to when you're fighting enemies. It's like, do I want to go all in and use all my tea to have this one powerful attack, or do I want to play a little bit more defensively and just have the tea left for healing if I need it? It's a good system actually. It's simple, but it's effective.
You know what that reminds me of? Have you ever played Cuphead?
I never did, but it looked like my kind of game.
So there are, oh dude, you'd absolutely love it. It would piss you off to no end because you die a million times, but everybody does because it's that kind of game. But the more you shoot, you have like playing cards at the bottom of the screen, and the more you shoot enemies and do damage and stuff, it builds up those playing cards. And you get up to 5 of them, but you can use 1 or 2 for like special like shots that you can take, or you can save up all 5 of them to do one really massive charge shot. So is it kind of like that?
Yeah, it's like
a little bit,
kind of, sorta. Like it doesn't sound like too dissimilar. I thought that it was a good system actually. Like it worked well. There's lots of spots where you can just like refill your tea. There's side quests, which we'll get into, where you can like upgrade your tea kettle. I will say that actually right away, and we'll expand on this later. But this game is so good for giving you like expansions and upgrades and stuff like that. It's very good. It's a very densely packed game. But I thought that was a really good system as well, like that tea system. I will say, one area where I think the game didn't feel quite as fluid as, let's say, an Ori or a Hollow Knight is the combat. And I'm probably only going to compare it to those games, really, because like I think that's a pretty apt comparison, because both of those games you kind of use like swords, melee weapons, stuff like that. It's not quite on the same as Prince of Persia. Like your utility is a lot different in that game. It's not quite as fluid as those games in terms of combat, but this one I will say it did win me over kind of towards the end. By the end of the game, when I upgraded everything, when I had all my abilities, I felt like I was doing some really cool stuff. But at the beginning, it was a little bit of a challenge for sure.
Okay, yeah, awesome. I love games that kind of kick your butt up and down the street a little bit before you can get into it. But the combat and everything seems relatively fluid. And there is one thing. Enemies will fire like these blue balls at you that you can catch and fire back. I really like that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can use that not just for combat, but for puzzles as well.
Yep.
So I love that this game is challenging not just on a combat standpoint, but also implementing movement into that as well. So,
and that's pretty much my favorite type of Metroidvania, is like when you get upgrades that kind of doubles combat and movement based. And I would say the bow is particularly good at that. Yeah, you're right. There's like in that system where you could catch enemies like projectiles and throw them right back at them. It comes right out of Ori, which is a good thing to bring over from that game because it worked really well there. And yeah, it works really well in bow too. And it's kind of cool because like you can use your enemies' orbs or projectiles in order to like open up passageways that you yourself cannot break. You can use them to like move things across your map for side quests and stuff like that. It's a good system, and once you kind of start really rocking and rolling with all the different upgrades you get, you can really feel like you're really traversing at a high speed, which is kind of cool.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a good system. But I would say that it probably like I think that all the upgrades and stuff like that like mostly worked well for me in terms of exploration. Combat, I think, is where the game I would say struggled just a little bit.
Yeah, it can be a little slow sometimes, and especially since it's very easy to kind of get trapped in corners, since you basically have to land a shot or hit something in order to charge that double jump. It's very easy to get caught in corners where you can take a major hit, even from like smaller to medium-sized enemies that in other Metroidvanias would typically be easier to you could like in other games you could just jump off the wall and clear it easier. So I can understand how that can be frustrating.
And now to counterbalance that, I will say this: there's probably people screaming at us right now because they're just like, all you got to do is jump up and slash downwards and you hit the enemy, you don't take any damage, you launch yourself up, and you have another jump. So like and that is true, like you can do that, but it's kind of like learning something. It's like unlearning and relearning something different on the fly during battle, and it can be tough if you're used to Metroidvanias with like a standard double jump like I certainly am. So that being said, though, I thought that the combat it's pretty good, and I'd say that the movement is almost like there's a few hiccups here and there, but it's almost flawless otherwise. Like it really kind of gets you going and gets you across the map, which is great, which is what I like. I think that the pacing of the game also is really quite good. Like I was saying, you kind of like unlock new abilities, you unlock new areas at a high enough kind of percentage. Like every hour it seems like you're kind of unlocking something new or somewhere to go or something else that you can put into your repertoire, which I kind of like, especially when we're talking about like an 8 to 12 hour game, right? I think that that's kind of important. And the other thing I'll say about Bow as well, just in terms of pacing, is that I didn't get stuck like a ton of times in the game, but there are some times where you're fighting a boss and you're just like, ugh, I've just died like 8 times. It's pretty good at letting you kind of go off and do other stuff if you want to just like get away from what you need to do.
To be honest, I would rather get stuck fighting a boss than getting stuck trying to figure out where to go and what to do. Because at a certain point, you know that you have to, if you're fighting a boss and getting stuck, you know that what you have to do is beat the boss. But if you're just stuck and kind of clueless on where to do it and where to go, cough, cough, David Jaffe playing Metroid Dread.
Indeed.
Sorry, had to throw that in there. But I would rather be stuck playing a boss than get frustrated, not knowing where to figure out how to figure out where to go. I forgot how to speak English for a second. So, but
That's an interesting question. I don't know where I land on that, actually. I think as long, like, and that's the thing, like, I think both are frustrating. But I think as long as there are alternate things to do, alternate paths for you to take, I'd probably pick, like, I'd rather not know where to go than be stuck on a boss. Because, like, being stuck on a boss, I feel like is very frustrating.
Well,
Elden Ring or Bloodborne or those types of games, like... Everybody listening knows I didn't make it too far in there, but I also felt like I had nowhere else really to go, so I was like, well, whatever, I'm not going to play anymore. I'm not having fun.
I'm really glad that you said that, Andy, because as somebody who has beaten Elden Ring 7 times, I have. Yeah, it's pretty sad. You can judge me; it's okay. But I've trained myself well on being okay with being stuck on bosses because that game.
You know what? I think I promised. What year is it here, Zach? 2025. I think I promised like at least 2 years ago that I was going to replay that game with a guide that I didn't like absolutely. I got to like the first boss and I played for like 30 hours. Like I was messing around the world or whatever, but I felt like weak as a newborn lamb and I got to the first boss and he just murdered me. And I was like, dude, I'm not doing this. Like this is not fun.
What was it, Margit, the dude that you fight on the bridge?
It might be. That sounds right.
70 attempts on my first try.
Yeah, see, that's just not fun to me. I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm a quitter, but luckily in Bo, you can at least like branch off and do other things. Yeah. So I do appreciate that about the game. Let's see, what else gameplay wise that we should mention? Well, you know what? One thing we probably should mention as well is that, and again, not unique to Metroid or to this Metroidvania by any means, but there is like a bunch of different cool power ups that you can find. They're called, hopefully I don't butcher this. Ōkami, which are like little charms that you can find that give you like different stat buffs and boosts and whatever. So lots of that kind of packed into the map. I mean, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There is like 36 of these free to find in the game, actually. So that's what I mean when I say like it's a really dense world. Like there's lots of different things for you to find or buy or do, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, those give you some nice little... little things to do and little things to pick up as well as like some of them are just like incredibly helpful. Not just in terms of like giving you stat boosts and buffs and stuff like that, but like one of the latter game Ōkami's like shows you where all the secrets are on the map, which is something that I feel like a Metroidvania should absolutely do. Every Metroidvania should have something like that where it shows you here is every power up that's hidden in this entire game.
And so you said it's in the later stages of the game, too? Yeah,
which is where it should be.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because, I mean, as much as we love Metroid, you pretty much see where things are at from the jump on the map. If you visited, like, a place on the map, you can see where there's a power-up. Except, like, in the very early... Yeah, you like Metroid 1, you couldn't do that. You had to find them. But like games like Dread, they like the whole area will flash if there's a secret, so it's not hard to kind of locate it. Whereas in this game, if there's an Ōkami that's at the end of the game that allows you to kind of backtrack and re-explore the world, that's a really it kind of adds more to do. And it doesn't hinder the progression through the game or the pacing because it's your choice to go back and look through. You don't have to do it. It's just extra game time.
Totally. Like you don't, if you want to do it, it's great. And I think that like it just adds like for me, like when I play Metroidvanias, I typically will go for 100%. So I'm just like, okay, well, if it's easy for me to do it, like if there's a game that I'm like kind of sort of enjoying, but not like absolutely in love with, maybe. Not to throw shade at this game, but like Haiku the Robot we did on Inspired by Metroid last year. And I thought that was a fine game. It was a fine Metroidvania, but I didn't have the incentive to go and get 100% items because I don't think, and I could be fact checked on this, but I don't think that the game like gave you like a breakdown of where all the different items were. Whereas this game, even though I was really enjoying it, I probably would have done it anyways because the game makes it easy for you to go and do that sweep and do the cleanup there. And by the way, One thing that we need to talk about on every single Inspired by Metroid episode that we ever do is the map. And I'm happy to report the map for Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus is great. It's a great map. It's very interactive. It's very easy to use. Lots of icons. It's got a little bit of personality to it as well. Different colors for different areas. It sounds like a silly like thing, but this is so important in a Metroidvania to have like a good functional map because you spend a lot of time looking at the map.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're going to be spending that much time looking at a map, it needs to be interactive. It needs to be fun. It needs to look good. And I agree. This is one heck of a map. It's so good that people are actually selling 100% walkthroughs online. Because when I went to look up when I was playing the game, I pulled up a map to kind of walk me through it a little bit, just to see if I could get through it a little bit faster. And the first option was Bow Path of the Teal Lotus 100% map pack. It's $5.
Wow.
And I was like, "Are you serious?" So, but you can go
Wow.
in Google Images and cheese it. So that's what I did.
Sure. Well, kudos to that person for trying to make a buck in this economy, I guess. But hey,
Yeah.
you know what? I think there are other ways maybe to acquire that that full map. All right,
yeah.
let's move on. But yes, the map deserves some love. Let's talk about some of these different areas here, and I guess this is mostly going to be me because you've only kind of got to the intro area there. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll you know what? Tell me your thoughts on the first little area, the forest of the crimson bamboo. Thought it was a nice little
So
opener.
I think that it is a beautiful intro area. It's where you met, what are they? Re and Raw, the parrots, like the Siamese
Oh
parrots
God, I
or
don't
the
know.
bird. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, they're so dumb. I love them, but I really think it's a very beautiful forest-esque. Well, obviously bamboo forest. Very beautiful red, blue, and darker colors that kind of blend together and make a beautiful night scene that kind of paves the way for the rest of the game and how the pacing and how the game flow is going to look. I think it's just absolutely captivating. You look in the background and you can see mountains and hills with trees in the back, and
Big
you've
full
got stars
moon.
in the sky. Ah, dude, it's so beautiful. And especially that part where you get to what is it, the bridge in the back, the bridge where you have that chase sequence actually.
Mm.
So yeah, because I'm at that part in the gameplay right now. So you've got this big, massive, gorgeous moon in the back. I think it's a beautiful starting area. I think the intro area to a good game needs to be absolutely captivating. And I think
Hmm.
they hit the nail on the head with this one here because it kind of, if you've just got cool gameplay, but the scenery is not doing it for you, it's kind of easy to lose track. But getting enthralled and just sucked into a game by its presence and its scenery, that's a big thing. That's why I was able to get hooked on Metroid Prime so easily because after you finish the Frigate Orpheon, you're dropped into the Talon overworld and you're immediately in this lush, rainy jungle-like area that introduces you to Talon 4. And
Yeah.
it's just one of the many reasons why these games are so good at pulling players in and keeping them. Because the setting is, I will stand by this, the setting is probably the most important aspect of the game. Because
Yeah.
it keeps the player in a world that we play video games to be sucked into them, to kind of escape. And the setting plays a major part in that. And I think Bow Path of the Teal Lotus does an excellent job of just sucking the player in immediately.
The first area is just like so important. I mean, like we were
Oh
talking
yeah,
about with what's his face, whose name I already forgot. Um, Ashai,
Asahi,
Asahi. Sorry, buddy.
Asahi, dude.
So I mean, first impressions matter, and I think that the first and I mean, there's not much to the Crimson Forest or the Crimson Bamboo Forest, but like I think it was a really good area to start off with. I thought that the you might not be here yet. Maybe you are actually. The Uzumaki Cave was really good, but I really don't think the game really started being like wow until we got to the Sencho Bridge. That was just a really cool sequence, and that had the escape sequence that I talked about.
Yeah,
From there, you can cover yours if you want. I'm gonna go. I won't spoil anything here, but from there you kind of get your hub area. So you go to Sakura City, and there's like a ton of shops, ton of characters, ton of stuff to do, ton of quests, ton of upgrades that you can get. It's a really nice hub area, and I think that it's kind of everything that you want from like your Japanese folklore kind of a setting. It's got like the beautiful cherry blossoms, the beautiful architecture, like the beautiful like everything you're looking for if you're looking for that kind of presentation. And a lot of great NPCs actually. I didn't shout out a lot of the NPCs in the story section because, like, again, I don't think the story is the main driver, but the NPCs that are here are charming. They're fun. There are some cool characters that you meet, like Ko and a few others that join your journey in the game. The elevator guy in the Imperial Palace is just like absolutely great. But yeah, so Sakura City is amazing. The Midori Forest is another forest that you'll get to there, and that's more of like the forest that you'd see in a Zelda game. It's very much like, it kind of reminded me of like Zelda meets, God, I don't know. Honestly, maybe Ori actually. It's just like kind of bright, it's cheery, it's fun, it's still got that Japanese flair to it, and then right under it, the Kitsune Burrows, which is like an area ripped right out of Hollow Knight. It's hard, it's creepy, it's got insects, it's grody. I thought that this area was really, really great, and lots of cool puzzles actually, particularly with the ability to throw like enemy projectiles back at at objects or walls or whatever have you. And they have these really cool things in there. They're like oh god. They're like pots that you can go into. It's like, it looks like a big pot of soup actually, where you could do, eventually you get an ability that allows you to like kind of shoot downwards, like almost like a ground pound, and you could ground pound into these pots of soup. I am just butchering this description, but anybody that's played this game will know. You could ground pound into these pots of soup, and the soup is magical, okay? Because it'll take you from one pot and it'll shoot you out of another pot as well. So it's really cool in action. It was a really fun section. The burrows were really great. The Megumi Mountain is like the snow area. This area I thought was kind of tough, although very, very nice in its own way. This one had like a lot of wind, and they had the worst enemies in the game, which are just those wolves that chase after you, and they come like on little bursts of wind, so like you can't even fight them. All you can do is dodge them. These guys are so brutal. I hated them, but it was all to get to the ice caverns, which is just an incredible area full of, as the name implies, ice. And this is where you really kind of put a lot of your platforming together, and there's a lot of great movement puzzles. There's a lot of great like puzzles that you do when you dash on items and you jump off. Your reflexes have to be really, really sharp, and it's frustrating, but I think like when you get it, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh man, like I nailed it, and that's a really satisfying feeling. I think the ice caverns might have been my favorite area in the game, although the final area, the Imperial Castle, gives it a run for its money. The Imperial Castle was so cool, and like there was a couple different levels that you could go on in the game, and each level in that area, which is funny because you're riding an elevator up, and the elevator loses power once it gets to each level, and basically what you got to do is you got to use all of your abilities, so everything in your toolkit, to go and get an electrical current over to like the electrical whatever thing to activate the elevator again. So it was just an incredible like platforming. Like it was really like kind of bringing everything that you've learned together, and I think like the areas when Metroidvanias do that, where they kind of test out all of your different abilities, are some of the best in the game usually. This one was certainly no exception, and this is where I finally was like at harmony with like the way that the double jumping worked, the way that the combat was working, the way that the dash worked. You get an ability in the game that lets you kind of like, if you're close to an object, you can like dash upwards and it'll shoot you in that direction. It was a really great area. Really, really exceptional platforming.
So you're just leveling up with Bo.
Yeah.
Getting to the point where you're finally
Bo's learning, I'm learning. Eventually we're able to take down the Empress. So yeah,
Andy, Path of the Teal Double.
It was a great area though. Like the last couple areas in the game, I thought really ramped it up. And one thing I will say, and here's my recommendation for players of Bo Path of the Teal Lotus here. Don't do what I did, okay? Don't do what I did in terms of missing. So you get a bunch of side quests in this game. And one of the first side quests that you get is you have to collect these 4 fragments. And once you get these fragments, you're able to talk to someone named the Vermilion Stranger. You've probably seen the Vermilion Stranger. You probably can't understand what they're saying. But the Vermilion Stranger, once you get these tablets, you can fast travel between the Vermilion Stranger's pots all around the map. I didn't do this side quest until like I was 80% of the way done. And I was like, my God, it takes forever to get to like everywhere in this game. And eventually I was like, oh no, you fool! So I didn't unlock fast travel actually until like very late in the game, but But it is there, so I cannot fault anyone for that except for me. But yeah, don't do what I did. Get that Vermilion medallion.
I appreciate that, because fast travel at this point, at this day and age with the complexity, it's a must, man.
It's a must. All right. One of the areas that I thought the game was also pretty good and pretty strong in was its selection of bosses. I thought that a lot of the bosses that you fight in the game were pretty strong. Nothing that I would say, you know what? Probably the best boss actually wasn't even necessarily a boss fight at all. It was almost like an escape sequence, except you were trying to progress and someone is trying to stop you from progressing. That was really cool, and I won't go into any spoilers there because that is a spoiler in the game, but that was taking place during the Imperial Castle section of the game, so one of the final boss battles there. But a lot of like pretty neat battles, I thought, and again, kind of nothing too punishing. Anyone that's been able to take on Hollow Knight will certainly be fine with Bo, but punishing enough where it's just like you do have to, to hone your skills, memorize some patterns, and, pay attention to what you're doing. It's not just a free pass where you can just like slash.
Okay. All right. Well, now you've got me hyped to get to the Imperial Castle section of the game, which I know is the last part, but
it's very cool.
I'm excited because most of the combat I've really enjoyed, and a game that does bosses well, as well as pacing and progression, is a game that does a good job. And so, if you are a fan of all the boss fights, then I look forward to that.
Yeah, like, I don't really think... There are some boss fights that were, like, okay. But I wouldn't say that there was any boss fights that I thought was, like, just an absolute stinker, you know what I mean? Which is kind of like a victory in and of itself, in a lot of ways, because, like, there are some games where you're playing it and you're, particularly Metroidvanias, like, you're playing a boss, you're just like, ugh. This one wasn't so great, or this one would, like, I always go back to, like, if you're playing Zero Mission on standard difficulty and you get to Ridley, it's a real big buzzkill fighting Ridley because you can just maul him down so quickly. So there's definitely a few like really good ones in here, some optional ones too. I don't think this is a spoiler, but everybody just fast forward 30 seconds just in case. You end up fighting this big wolf called Kitsura at one point, and it looks like Amaterasu from Ōkami. That one was so cool. That one might have been my favorite of the entire game. But there definitely was like a few of them that I thought were really, really exceptional. So yeah, they did really good on the boss fight category. And I would say, like, I think that most of the enemies that you fight in the game are, for the most part, like pretty well designed, pretty fun to combat as well.
You want to hear something really sad, Andy? I've never played Ōkami.
That is sad. You should play Ōkami.
Yeah, I'm probably going to play Ōkami because apparently they're coming out with either another one or a remake of Ōkami.
They're doing a sequel to Ōkami. I'm really excited about it, actually. You know what? We're actually, Al and I have been talking. We're going to do some Ōkami stuff on the Zelda Cast here to celebrate. It's going to be 20 next year, so we might wait, or we might just see if we get some more Ōkami 2 information and go from there. But a great game.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I have a lot of Metroidvanias on my backlog, including Hollow Knight, which I have also never played.
So. You know what? Ōkami is basically like a Zelda game. It's got like almost everything in common with Zelda games, except it just doesn't have Zelda in the title. Like if you were playing Ōkami and you were playing Twilight Princess, the portion where you're playing as a wolf, it's pretty bang on.
Okay.
In terms of that game, I actually prefer Ōkami to Twilight Princess if I'm being honest, but that's probably not news to a lot of people.
I'd agree with you, except for the intro. The intro to Twilight Princess is just top tier.
Indeed, maybe on maybe in another dimension, it is. Lots of stuff to do in this game. In Bow, Pathway of Teal Lotus. Let me be specific. I really, really appreciate again that there's like the map is small, but it's packed with different stuff to do. There's different side quests. There's different things to collect. Like one of the biggest things about a Metroidvania, like what makes a successful Metroidvania for me, is kind of like what you were saying earlier. When you're like, you know what, I'd prefer being stuck on a boss rather than prefer not knowing where to go. And not knowing where to go can be like awful as well. But I think what a good Metroidvania does is like if you're lost on the map, it will at least reward you in some capacity for going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Like, you can go and find, let's say you're lost in, say you're playing Metroid Prime, right? And you're going to the frigate Orpheon before you get your gravity suit, but after you get the thermal visor, you're just like, yeah, I can't wait to explore this area. You can't progress, but at least you get an energy tank for your troubles, right? Like, you get that tank, so you haven't felt like you've completely wasted your time. Bo is very good at doing that as well, and so was Ori, so was AM2R. So I'm not surprised to see that. There's lots of different stuff that is just packed in this map for you to do, for you to find, for you to explore. I think it does a really, really great job of that. And some of the side quests I thought were really, really fun, and like meaty kind of side quests too, where like you got to go and rescue characters, fight bosses, like pretty like non like fetchy side quests. We'll put it that way. Like, these ones were ones that you actually like needed to find people, do certain tasks, like stuff that was not just like, bring me 10 restless crickets and we'll call it a day,
Yeah, absolutely. God, dude.
There's
Thinking about that crap in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild makes me so mad, dude. Find me 50 rush rooms.
Yeah, I'm over that. And you know what? To be fair, this game, there's not like a ton of side quests. Like, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It looks like there's maybe 20 side quests, but I feel like that's enough. Like, I'll take 20 pretty good side quests over like 50 side quests that are like 10 of them are awesome, but then like the other 40 are just like, lame fetch quests. I'm stuck on this one, and anybody that's played this game will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The only side quest I have not done in this game, and it's keeping me from 100%, is a side quest called the Fragile Egg. And Zach, the Fragile Egg side quest involves, as you might guess, carrying around a fragile egg, and if even one person hits you, that fragile egg is broken. And you do not have to go a short distance. You have to like trek through like this very treacherous obstacle course in the Frost Caverns to get this egg from like the left side all the way to the right side. So I haven't.
So it's dread mode,
dude. It's dread mode, yeah. But like with like flying spikes and enemies and like crazy stuff. Like if Samus was like had a sailcloth and was flying through like moving spikes, like Prince of Persia style. It's pretty wild. So it's the only quest I haven't done yet, but I thought it was a good one.
All right.
One other thing that we should touch on in this game, and I think that this is a consistent strength of Bo Path of the Teal Lotus, is the music. And it's almost like a cheat code for me, and probably for a lot of people, because I feel like I really love like the Japanese instruments, the Japanese kind of, especially like that kind of style of instruments. I thought that they just sound like so fantastic. The music was composed by, I hope I don't butcher their names, but Minami Kyoda and Moises Camargo. So they did a great job on making the soundtrack really just kind of beautiful to match the graphics and the setting and the atmosphere that you're playing with. So I thought that was a consistent high point of the game, actually.
I've always appreciated games that have Eastern influences on their music because 98% of the time it is on point with the area that you're exploring, the emotions that it wants you to feel, and from the jump, the music is spot on. So shout out to both of these composers, because I am very much looking forward to seeing what kind of musical tracks there are in this game. And I mean, we love The Legend of Zelda, and there are a lot of points, especially in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like when you set foot in Kakariko Village, for instance. You have that immediate vibe that lets you know that, hey, you're in a village, but also there's a lot of Eastern influence in this village. And it's funny because it's on the eastern side of the map. But that music almost it's really cool. But this music so far has been absolutely spot on. So I'm glad that you like it a lot, and I'm looking forward to it, because that's usually my favorite aspect of the game rather than the setting.
Mm-hmm. And you know what, like, it doesn't overpower like any of the areas, I wouldn't say, but it's really nice to listen to in game. And I was kind of flipping through the soundtrack just on YouTube, and I was like, this is just a really solid, like, nice sounding soundtrack. And again, it's probably like the instrumentation that puts it over the top for me. Like I said, I'm a sucker for those Japanese style instruments. I think that they just sound like consistently really good. But again, I thought that I think the last couple Metroidvanias that we've covered, like we did Animal Well, we did Haiku the Robot. Like I wouldn't say that those games, and I really liked Animal Well too, by the way, but I wouldn't say that those games had like really, really standout soundtracks. Even Prince of Persia, which I really loved, like I thought the music was fine. It wasn't the high point of the game though, and I think the music is not the high point here either, but it was strong, I think. Now, let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. In the caves, have you gotten to a little area where it's like you need to make 3 offerings and the offerings are empty? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. I wondered if you'd have gotten there yet, and you might not have, but they're somewhere in the caves just towards the bottom there. Apparently, this is supposed to be, or was intended to be DLC for the game, and we're not. Nobody knows if that DLC is ever coming. Unfortunately, just due to Humble shutting the studio down or shutting themselves down.
Yeah.
Apparently, the Squid Shock is using Patreon to kind of help and fund any future DLC or future updates or future support, anything like that. So I'm really hopeful that we get that, because I kept on checking back to that one spot in the Uzumaki Caves, and I kept on thinking that I'd find something to put in those 3 slots to get something, open something up, whatever. And I never quite found it. So hopefully they can come back and finish the job there in terms of DLC or anything like that. But yeah, you know what? Like final thoughts for me. I thought that Path of the Teal Lotus was really, really solid Metroidvania. Really, I mean, like, I'm kind of biased because I know and I like Milton, but I thought the level design was great. I thought the aesthetic was great. I thought that the music was great. Really great, like really solid boss fights. Really solid movement, great abilities. Once you get used to the double jump in it, I bet you most people got used to it like immediately, and it's just a Spiteri issue over here. But I think once you get used to that, like the movement feels really, really fluid, really nice. I would like really recommend this to anyone out there that's looking for a Metroidvania to play to pass the time until we get to Metroid Prime 4. I think you could do a lot worse than this. Plus, obviously, we want to show some love to a big member of the Metroid community, Milton Guasti, and team that worked on this as well. So I have. I had some harsher thoughts, I think, once my game was like immediately finished, because I was still kind of just like, about the double jump and the movement. But I think like now, like a week or two removed, I'm just like, you know what, like, man, for such a small like game, like, because I think that there was like not a large development team that worked on it. I was just like, man, this game, it really did like do a great job.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, and I can't wait to dive deeper into the gameplay and get to explore more of the world. And of course, I'm going to update you as I go along and be like, "Yep, you nailed it
now.
here." Yeah, I absolutely have to now. So, and I don't really have final thoughts because I haven't finalized the game. But first impressions are it's a beautiful game that I'm going to really enjoy. It's fluid. There are some differences from other Metroidvanias that'll take a minute to get used to, but I'm really looking forward to exploring because everything about it so far is really fun, and I can't wait to keep you posted, as one would say. Also, I just noticed that if you look at my beard, Andy, the bottom of it, the way the hair is, it looks like a Metroid talon. Look at it.
Kind of does, yeah, kind of does. You're almost at the point now where you can start doing the Jack Sparrow, like you can beard it a little bit there,
Oh yeah, dude.
Beard it. Beat it is what I meant to say. Bead the beard.
Bead the beard. Beard the
now
bead.
We're talking. There we go.
Yeah, I'm a Talon Metroid now.
Nothing wrong with that. There are worse things to be. Let me tell you that. Yeah. So Path of the Teal Lotus. Good Metroidvania. I recommend it out there to anybody. One Metroidvania that I hope that we see, and Zach is very confident that we're going to see it, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which we are hopefully going to see on April 2nd at the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which, just to reiterate for everybody, you can watch live with myself, Doominal Crossing, and Alasyn Aletha over on twitch.tv/the Zelda Cast. We are going to be streaming probably a 10 or 15 minutes before the presentation starts. So come on in, hang out, grab your coffee, grab your Monster energy drink, whatever it is that you need to get hyped for the presentation on the 2nd, and come and hang out with us. We're going to be doing a show afterwards too. So like we'll be streaming and we'll do a show after where we'll have our reactions, our thoughts, etc. Very likely I will release it to podcast form on that day. So it's a Wednesday. So very likely it'll be released on that day, just at a later time than usually it would. So throwing that out there for everybody. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. You know, one thing I didn't say at the beginning, I think we're also going to see a trailer for either Metroid 6 or a remake of some kind of either Zelda or Metroid. We might even see Mercury Steam dabble in some Fusion remake.
We'll see. I'm going to save my thoughts.
I have a hunch, brother.
Speaking of Elden Ring, speaking of Mercury Steam, we were talking about Elden Ring like half an hour ago. What do you think of the new game that they released? The trailer for it. The name is escaping me, but
the Night Rain.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
So, I haven't played it. I don't know if I will play it because I actually sold my PlayStation 5 because I only played Elden Ring and nothing else. Mm-hmm. But I think a 3-player Battle Royale-esque Souls-like game will be fun for about 30 minutes, and then it'll be rage-inducing and cause controllers and screens to break. I think it's a really interesting idea. I can't wait to see how it plays out. It looks like the bosses and exploration is going to be crazy, but at the same time, looks can be deceiving.
The Blades of Fire is the name of the game. I'm sorry. This is what this game is called. Blades of Fire.
I have not seen anything on that. Let me look at that really.
Yeah, you know, I saw the trailer for it, and it kind of looked like... how do I put this? It kind of looks like it's going for like the Bloodborne, Elden Ring kind of vibe, but I don't know if I came away from that, at least the first trailer, and an emphasis on it's the first trailer. I don't know if I came away with it just being like, wow, I got to get this game. And actually, it comes out pretty soon. It comes out in May, so it's coming out for PS5, Xbox, Windows. I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes. Maybe that could be, if it's good, maybe that could be an Inspired by Metroid that we end up playing. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I'd be down. It's a weird price. It's releasing for $54.99 or $53.99. That's strange. I've never seen a game released for $54. But interesting. It looks cool.
Maybe that says something about the game. I don't know. Nevertheless, though, yeah, I'm curious about it. I'm curious to see what people think. But yes, just to reiterate, we are going to have a big prediction episode next week. We're going to talk about all of our thoughts about when we might see that Switch 2 Direct. Switch 2 Direct live stream April 2nd, 7 a.m. Mountain Pacific Time, 6 a.m. 6 a.m. Pacific Time, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. You know the rest. 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
8 a.m. Central Time.
8 a.m. Central Time. I was like a deer in headlights there. I was like, oh my god, what's the next time zone here? Is it Central? Is this something else? Newfoundland time? Like, what do we... Oh boy. Anyways, we're going to be live streaming it. It's really early in the morning, but come hang out with us, by God. It's going to be a good time. Zach... Thank you for joining me today, my friend, and filling in. You did a great job, as you always do. Anything you want to plug before we jam on out of here?
No, man. Just come check us out at the OmegaMetroid.com, where you can get all your walkthroughs and stuff like that. I'm just a team member at this point, but I am very excited because I've loved kind of replaying these Metroid games and using these beautiful walkthroughs, including the NES or Nestroid one, where I took some snapshots. That was a lot of fun. Also, you can follow me on Blue Sky at... hang on. I don't even know my own Blue Sky handle. How about that?
I know your Blue Sky handle. Zio.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow me on Blue Sky at Zio. You can also check us out at Collateral Gaming, where my buddy Ash and I do podcasts every single month, where we talk about every kind of game, whether it's good, bad, or absolutely terrible. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on again, and I can't wait to shoot it next time with you. It's going to be a great time. Heck yeah. I can't wait for this presentation, dude. I'm so excited.
Heck yeah. And I promise I I just discreetly slipped Zach $20 for Hawken for OmegaMetroid.com there. 20 Canadian bucks though, I mean, so that's not worth much. All right, everybody, we are going to get out of here. Thank you so much for checking us out. And hey, we do this every single week. Every Wednesday, there are new episodes of this podcast. So if you got a Metroid fan in your life, tell them about these crazy guys doing a weekly Metroid show. That would mean a lot. And check out OmegaMetroid.com, as Zach said. It's got guides, news, maps, thought pieces, lots of different stuff there for you to go check out. And by the way, since we're shilling things, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you ever want to watch these episodes and see our smiling faces as we do these shows, you could definitely do that over there. You can see pretty much the entire library of episodes actually over on YouTube as well. So go and check that out. And of course, give us a follow rather, over on Blue Sky at Spateri316, at Omega Metroid, at Zio, and give our pal Doom a follow as well at Doom Lacrosse. And then the last thing, if you really want to take your love to the next level, your Omega Metroid love to the next level, go and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/SPNet. We are ripping through the Great Metroid Area Ranking. We're down to the nitty gritty, so go and get caught up on that, and we'll see how everything shakes out. We'll see how it ends. So, Path of the Teal Lotus, available on pretty much every single console, a modern console that there is. So go and check the game out. Shout out to the team that made it, Squid Shock Studios. Shout out to our pal Milton. We will see everybody next week for our Switch 2 prediction episode. So until then, everybody, take care.